Listen to this episode if you have ever thought, my product is good, but it's not revolutionary. How do I actually stand out? Do you have to innovate? Do you have to invent something? Do you have to say that your product has something crazy different about it? How do I actually stand out if my product is great, but it's not revolutionary? It's not actually innovating. Today, we're breaking down brands that didn't invent something, but they made boring break through the noise. They made something that is already out there, that already existed, break through the noise in 2025, and they all became household names within 2025. We are going to dive into what they did, why it matters for you, and really what the major takeaway is here. We're talking about olive oil, hand sanitizer, sunscreen. None of these categories are very fun. And yet these brands somehow became household names in 2025, not because of the features of them, not because of innovation, not because they invented something, but because of brand identity and emotion. And we're going to talk about how you can do this too. I really want to reframe how we think about growth. You hear me use the word differentiator all the time. You need to be different. How are you going to stand out? You have to become an industry of one. Most founders think that that means that they need a better product. Most founders come to me, say, Maddie, I have a great product. Why are people not buying it? But what brands need to prove is that saturation doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is how you actually differentiate, and it doesn't have to be tangibly. The brands we're talking about today proves this, is that you don't have to actually innovate. You don't need to have an innovative product. You just need to innovate in one major category. Consumers are choosing brands that make them feel a certain way about themselves. We hear this. I talk about this. You hear me say it all the time that in 2026, consumers care more about what this product means for them than what the product is actually doing for them. So today we're going to break this down with 3 brands that did this perfectly in 2025, taking a boring category and becoming a household name through a ton of saturation. All of these brands are in industries that have hundreds of options out there for them. And we're going to cover these 3 case studies, a rapid fire of what they did well and what it means for you, how you can implement some of these strategies. And of course, at the end, we're going to give you an action item of how you can do this for your brand today and start actually getting closer of breaking through the noise within saturation. I know many of you are in saturated industries. I know it's a common thing that lives kind of rent-free in a lot of people's brains. And so today we're going to dive into how do we actually step apart from the saturation. I'm excited about this. These case study episodes are things we're going to do more in 2026 and moving forward. I love them. You love them. When I look at the data, they are the things that you guys are listening to and binging. So you're going to get more of them. Before we dive in too deep, I just want to introduce myself in case you're new here. My name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist. I work with consumer brands to help them become the next household name in their industry through branding, marketing, community building, and direct to consumer sales. So let's dive in without further ado. First one that we're talking about is olive oil. I want you to think about olive oil right now and think about the innovation of olive oil in 2025. Who comes to mind? I'm sure that's the brand that we're talking about. And then I want you to think about before 2025, name an olive oil company. Got one? Top of mind? I can't think of another olive oil company before Graza olive oil came into the picture. If you don't know Graza olive oil, go walk through the shelves of your olive oil aisle and you will see a beautiful green bottle that has a squeezy top on it that has a really fun brand. There is nothing innovative about this other than maybe the packaging that they put it in and the branding that they are using for their brand. This category has existed forever. And it's boring. Before, you all would see would be a amber glass bottle with a pourer top on top of it. And of course, an olive tree of sorts, maybe some sort of tree, an olive, a basket, but it was a pretty sleepy category. And they all sold olive oil. But what Graza did differently is they sold confidence in the kitchen, a fun feeling, and something different. What made them stand out was how they look on shelves. I didn't even hear about Graza olive oil until one day I was walking around a Fred Meyer, which is a grocery store in Eastern Oregon, and I saw the Graza olive oil. It has a squeezy top, bright green colors, and I was naturally drawn to it. And I said, this would be fun. And then I used it. You squirt it around. I felt like I used less of it because the top made sense. And I started to hear about it everywhere after I bought it. That was when it became an online brand into a household name, was when people were naturally talking about Graza olive oil. They had bright packaging. It was countertop worthy. It was fun. And their branding and their marketing was all very playful. They did all of these things within a sleepy category and they made it unique. And they naturally said, when I look at this aisle of the 42 different types of olive oil or avocado oil, whatever I can buy, the only one that my eye was drawn towards was the one that looked a little different. That is how you differentiate based on brand, based on feeling, based on identity behind the product. 2025 is when Graza olive oil really crossed from a cool internet brand that kind of went viral to an actual normal household name. They did this because they got on shelves. Now, you know, this is not something I talk about too often because I do love to talk about D2C sales, and direct to consumer sales is incredible. It's where they started. It's where I start with the majority of my brands as well, but especially in CPG food, consumer packaged goods in the food category. Where do people buy food? Most people buy food in grocery stores. They stood out when they were on the shelf next to products that were very sleepy and they were very fun. People started referencing Graza by brand name instead of, olive oil. They were calling it Graza olive oil, just like I have been saying it throughout. I've been saying it's Graza olive oil, Graza olive oil. It's kind of like Kleenex tissues. It was when a brand stood out enough within a category, they kind of owned the entire marketplace. That is what Graza did. They became the Kleenex of tissues. People say, do you have any Kleenex tissues? People are saying, do you have any Graza olive oil? That is when you know you have mastered the brand identity, its culture, its identity, its excitement. It's basically owning a category. They didn't change the product at all. They changed how people attracted to the product. They engaged how people interacted with the product, and they basically made it just more fun, more playful in a category that was pretty boring for a long time. And their marketing goes alongside of that. When we look at this category, I have always said that if you don't have a business right now, but you want a business, go walk around in Target, Walmart, grocery stores, whatever, and find an area that has a bunch of options and all of them are really boring. Like if you look in the sauce aisle, which sauces do your eyes naturally gravitate towards? It's the one that has kind of fun branding. It's the one that feels like it's going to be almost like a boutique local sauce, even though it's probably a global brand. That is what Graza olive oil did. In a sleepy category, they differentiated based on brand, based on having fun with it, based on separating themselves. The next one is we're going to talk about is hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer used to be an invisible category. It was something that you grabbed when you needed it. It was an ugly bottle. It was medicinal. It burned every time that you put it on. You used it and forgot about it, threw it in your bag when you needed it. If you were in public and you had somebody hacking up a lung next to you, you said, all right, let me grab my hand sanitizer, put it on. Nobody really wanted to see it. Nobody felt anything about it. They just kind of moved along. And then Touchland came into the marketplace. Touchland didn't start in 2025. None of these brands did, but they became popular in 2025 because of certain changes that they made. Touchland turned hand sanitizer basically into a lifestyle accessory, especially in the world of COVID. People wanted hand sanitizer in every bag, in every car, everywhere they went, they wanted a hand sanitizer. But yet hand sanitizers smelled bad. They hurt when you put it on. They were medicinal. We had the ones that literally smelled like taking a tequila shot. Does anybody have that feeling? Does anybody have that visceral memory from COVID? We had so much hand sanitizer being made. You would put some on and some smelled disgusting. So what Touchland did is they basically said, we're going to make hand sanitizer fun. And they were design forward. They were scented to smell kind of like perfume. They were aesthetic, and they were something that people actually wanted to carry it around. It kind of almost looked like perfume. It smelled like perfume, and it became a day-to-day accessory for many people. They even had kind of a fun bottle that people could spray it with. The application was kind of fun. And then when they started to see in COVID, this was a necessity. Hand sanitizer was a necessity for many people, but they marketed it towards Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and kind of like young millennials, but mostly Gen Z and Gen Gen Alpha. They marketed to that industry. And now if you walk around Sephora, if you walk around Ulta, there are full sections of Touchland hand sanitizer, tons of different scents of it. Every Gen Z and Gen Alpha carries them around. If you see, some even have them attached to their Stanley. They have them in every What's in My Bag video. They have them propped in their cars. We have people putting 3 different scents in their cars in all of their restock videos. They made hand sanitizer cool. They marketed it towards these young people that are kind of seen as cool. And they wanted it on their desk. They wanted it in their bag. They wanted it on their counter in their house. And they marketed to that specifically, the one that you wanted to see, the accessory that was with you and that smelled good and worked. Now, did they innovate on the product a little bit to basically make hand sanitizer that smells good? Yes, but it's still hand sanitizer. It's still a sleepy category. What they did is they differentiated based on brand. They differentiated based on saying, this is a cool aesthetic hand sanitizer brand. Again, they took a sleepy category and they brought it out. They didn't change the formula. They didn't change the ritual or the problem that it solved. They made hygienic medicinal products feel kind of chic and cool instead of feeling clinical. By 2025, Touchland wasn't this like novelty product. It wasn't new. It wasn't something that was just coming to shelves, but it became a default for young shoppers. It was like this default that a bunch of Gen Z people, every time they go to Sephora, we know that this Gen Z, Gen Alpha world, we have these Sephora kids, as that people are calling them. And they needed this in every bag. It was inexpensive-ish. It was accessible. It was fun. It was something that people could use. It was practical. And it started as a COVID project out of necessity that we needed this. People saw it in the marketplace. It was a problem that we saw that there was no fun hand sanitizer. And then in 2025, they focused on who that would actually use this product religiously, naturally. And they marketed to them well. And they said, who are they? What are they talking about? What are they carrying? And how can we be there? Would these kids probably even carry hand sanitizer around otherwise? Probably not. But because it's an accessory, they all have it. Like, I never carried hand sanitizer around as a kid. I was too busy being a kid. And so a lot of these kids now wouldn't even carry hand sanitizer, but they do, and they purchase all of the scents because they made it a status symbol. They didn't sell the cleanliness or, don't get sick or, 99% effective. Like, nobody cared about that. They sold the chicness, the taste that it meant that you had, the aesthetic that it meant that you had behind it. The third case study here, you might not know this brand as well as some of the others. I would say they're teetering on a household name, is Vacation Sunscreen. I want you to go look at Vacation Sunscreen's Instagram right now. If you're not driving, go look at Vacation Sunscreen's Instagram. Sunscreen marketing has been pretty much the same for decades. It's beautiful people sitting on a beach talking about protection and safety and SPF and why we need it. Instead, Vacation kind of entered the chat and changed the feeling around sunscreen. All of the marketing for sunscreen, think about the copper tone girl, think about, the sun bum. Of course it's beachy. Of course it's, these beautiful people. It's these fit people. And it's kind of like, this is what you do. This is why, you talk about, you need to protect yourself. You need to have, blocking, all the shielding, SPF, all of this stuff. And instead, Vacation sold the 80s summer. It is this nostalgic vibe of 80s and 90s throwback. Everything feels like you're looking at a magazine from the 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s. They sold nostalgia, they sold scent, they sold leisure, and they sold vibe. Same product. 30 SPF, 50 SPF, whatever, glimmer, sun cream, whatever. It's all this same product. They still had beautiful people naturally, but they innovated on scent and style. Their products are different. The application is kind of fun. Their branding is very different. Their marketing is all about this nostalgia taste. They added whipped cream sunscreen. They added perfume scented sunscreens. They created a product that people actually wanted to wear and that the application was easy. Something people wanted to carry around, something that was fun, something that was beautiful, something that was kind of like a conversation piece because it all looked super outdated. It looked like it's been around for 30 to 40 years. Even the packaging looks like it's antique. It looks like it's been around like it was like something you found in your parents' or your grandparents' home. Sunscreen almost became the final piece of your outfit because, again, it smelled good. Similar to Touchland, honestly, is that what is the 2 biggest complaints about sunscreen? The application kind of sucks and It doesn't smell good. I hate the smell of general sunscreen. I feel like I take a drink of a summer drink and I'm like, ew, this smells like sunscreen. I don't want it. So what they did is they actually were brand first, the nostalgia, the 80s. No other brand has ever really branded their sunscreen like that. They had very interesting tone of voice, brand voice, all of that. And yes, they may have innovated a little bit on product where they added different scents to it. They may have filled the gaps. They did solve a little bit of a problem there, but their major differentiator was differentiating on brand. People didn't feel lectured that they needed to be safer by wearing sunscreen. They felt invited into this nostalgic, warm, fun world. And they call themselves like a leisure-driven sunscreen. They wanted you to hang out on a beach chair by the pool, and this was the sunscreen that was an easy application, that you didn't feel like you needed to shower after, and that you actually felt like you were wearing perfume that made you feel good. They invited you and they made you excited to put it on. It was basically the final piece of your summer wardrobe, and they use that in their messaging. The final piece of your summer wardrobe is sunscreen. Think about that, because I hate putting sunscreen on. Even though we're supposed to wear it every day, 365, it's something that we're all working on, but I hate putting sunscreen on. Especially I wear a lot of natural sunscreens and the application is like clay and it's just not fun. By 2025, vacation wasn't just SPF. They were basically the perfume of the sunscreen. They had skin tints. They have the whipped cream. They do just sell body mist perfumes now. And they were basically the most fun sunscreen in their category. They didn't innovate on the protection or the quality or the amount of SPF that you can put on there. They innovated on the scent and the application, the two biggest complaints about sunscreen. And they made it feel fun instead. Hey, I've been getting some DMs that you may not know what I do outside of hosting this podcast. I actually work with product-based business owners every single day to help them grow and scale their brand. If you really want my eyes one-on-one inside of your business to look at your strategy, to look at your funnels, to look at your data, and to develop your next campaign or bring your business or your idea to life, that is exactly what I do every single day. I've worked with 500 plus businesses across 70 different industries to help them become the next household name in their industry. If you are craving a business brain, a strategic advisor, a data-centered, obsessed person to come into your business and help you bring your idea to life, I'm your gal. Come on over to my Instagram at thisismadisonpage, DM me support. Otherwise, you can click the link in the show notes to apply today. Okay, back to the episode. So when we look at these three brands, three very sleepy categories. Sunscreen might be a little bit more fun, but olive oil, hand sanitizer, and sunscreen have all been around for decades. However, these three broke through the noise in very saturated industries. Oh my gosh, think about sunscreen brands. I can literally think of 100 of different brands that sell sunscreen. So now let's talk about really the patterns here. Why does this matter? And what do you really need to know about these three case studies? First things first is they all chose boring categories on purpose, because boring categories allow you to innovate and have fun because you can be the not boring option. They understood that the product was already good enough. You didn't need to differentiate based on actual features, on the actual ingredients of it, or how it was made, or anything along those lines. They built basically their differentiation based on brand, identity, and the customer before they actually scaled. They said, who do we actually think is going to buy this? Why are they going to buy it? What are they going to say that makes this really fun or interesting to buy? And they made everyday useful items feel intentional, feel fun, feel like something you're excited about. I've never been excited about using olive oil before. I've never been excited about using hand sanitizer before, or sunscreen. Your girl, look at me. It's the middle of February. I'm pale as heck. I'm this pale in the middle of the summer. When I was on my honeymoon in Belize, I was putting on sunscreen every 15 to 20 minutes. And I hate putting on sunscreen. It's a nuisance in many people's lives. What they did was they made it feel fun. They made it feel exciting. They made it feel easier. They created brands that people could recognize from across the room. They stopped selling features and they started selling belonging, application, style, aesthetics. They basically started creating a community around a specific aesthetic that they think that their ideal customer would want. None of this was accidental. This was all strategy. It was brand strategy. It was marketing strategy. And yes, some of them do have an innovation in solving a problem because people buy products that solve problems. So yes, they did fill in some of those gaps, but the major thing that they did here was innovate based on brand. If we look at them versus all the other brands, they are an outlier, and it brought them all to household names within their category within just a couple of short months, frankly. None of these brands invented something new. They didn't rely on innovation. It was just kind of a bonus. They basically relied on the emotion and the feeling. Nowhere in their marketing, and I want to make this very clear because I know a lot of you guys are out there saying 100% organic or 100% cotton or, natural ingredients or handmade or, you're really focusing on the features. You're talking about being antimicrobial and all of these things. People don't care about that. They care about the emotion and the feeling when they use it, what that purchase means for them. My biggest pet peeve is when I have a brand come to me that is clearly imitating their favorite competitor of theirs. I had a client this past week that I was starting out with, and I pulled up their website and I said, who do you look up to? Because I knew immediately upon looking at their website who they looked up to. They said this other brand. I pulled up their website and it looked nearly identical with just different pictures. Same colors, similar fonts, similar messaging, just reworded, thrown in the mix and tossed out there. That is my biggest pet peeve in business because you are shooting yourself in the foot. What none of these brands did was look at their industry and say, what's already working? I'm going to just do that exact same thing. What they did is they looked at their industry. They said, what's working? The product is good. We know that people just find the product and they use it and they love it. That's great. But what they did was they said, where can I be different? I would rather you look at all of your competitors and say, now, how can I do things opposite of what they do? Everybody in your industry is very black and white and modern. Why don't you be colorful? Everybody in your industry is very colorful and talking about their natural ingredients and they're doing all of these things. Okay, why don't we go and try to go do it this way? Everybody is feeling like they're using this type of packaging. Let's do a different type of packaging. You don't have to innovate. You just have to do things differently. If your product works and it's been proven to work in the past and people already use it on a day-to-day basis, you don't need to sell your product. Unless you're inventing something, you might need to sell your product. But if you're not inventing something, if you're not inventing skincare or candles or clothing, those are all things that have been around for decades, you need to sell your brand. You need to sell your feeling. You need to sell what it feels like to use your product. That's what actually matters. If your brand doesn't make people feel anything yet, it just feels like everyone else, so they're going to use the category leader. If your brand feels the exact same as the one that people could just buy and they already know the name on it, they've already heard people rave about the brand, why would they choose you when this person already has so much authority and trust? Just because it worked for 3 to 5 other brands or even just one other brand actually tells me that we shouldn't do that. You should do something opposite. It's been done. Let them do it. Do your own thing. I want that to really sink in with you. And I want you to think about that. You really don't need to be groundbreaking when it comes to product and innovation and R&D. You need to be felt, which is an aesthetic, which is messaging, which is branding, which is marketing. Your customer is choosing, when I make this purchase, what does it mean about me? What is it saying about me? How am I going to feel when I do it? Not specifications, not features. Like I said, I shop very natural products. I eat very clean. So yes, I'm checking ingredients, but that is a qualifier for me. It is not something that is going to make me choose you over everybody else. What it means is that brand is what you need to lead with if you are in a saturated, sleepy category. Brand is not just visuals. It's how someone feels when they choose you. People think that brand is just choosing colors and blah, 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 blah. But look at Vacation. Vacation did still have a lot of beaches, beautiful people, surfing, all of that was still a part of their brand. But what they did was they made you feel something else. They made you feel like this was the easiest option, like it was a leisure-driven business, like it wasn't a chore or a nuisance to put on sunscreen. That is what the feeling is behind the brand. They talk about the ease. They talk about, this is leisure driven. I want my sunscreen to be leisure driven. It is an actual chore for somebody like me to put sunscreen on. It's a chore for my husband. It's a chore for me. It's a chore for everybody around me because I got to get up every 15 minutes and spray my whole body down so I don't turn into a lobster. They basically flipped that script. They made me feel something else when I wanted to buy it. So your action item today is I want you to think about the brand that you have right now, the visual, the aesthetic, and the feeling. Does it line up to the mission that you have? And does it match up to everybody else in your industry? Does it make you stand out? Is it unique? Do you look like everybody else? Do you know what actually sets you apart? Or are you selling features? Are you selling the product? Because if you focus on just selling the product and the features, when the product changes, when you expand to a new product, you're starting over. But instead, if you build a brand, Graza olive oil now has expanded into sauces, mayo, other things that are oil-based, that are healthy and fun, and they're keeping the same ethos behind their brand. But if they just sold, where they've harvested their olives from and how it was whatever, slow roasted or slow pressed, I don't even know how olive oil is made, slow pressed, things like that, then it was just the focus on the actual product. But because they built a brand, they now can expand. So you're shooting yourself in the foot if you focus more on the product, because people don't buy product, they buy brand. You can't expand when you sell product instead of brand. And it just isn't why consumers are buying. So I want you to ask yourself, what sets you apart? How can you look at your industry and say, okay, everybody's over here. I want to go over here. I would never build a brand that everybody is doing something super similar and I'm just going to do that same thing because clearly it works. That's actually opposite of what you want to do. And it's also a really big reason why ChatGPT is not your friend when it comes to branding. This is something I'm going to start adding into my podcast, is when times that we can't utilize AI for something, because I utilize AI every day, but you have to do it smart. Because if you utilize AI for branding, you're going to end up looking and sounding and acting like everybody else out there, because that's what AI is doing. Is it's conglomerating everybody that's already out there and just regurgitating it back to you. So this is something we cannot use AI for. In 2026, innovation is going to be incredibly hard. There are so many products out there. We have so many brands. We have doubled the amount of new businesses every year since 2020. If you are lucky enough to have something that's brand new, innovative, and inventing something, that's great. I'm super excited for you. Yes, sell your product because it's different and it's unique. Lean into that. But if you're in a saturated industry that's been around for a while, it's on you to make the space for you. There might be a saturated industry that I wouldn't try to go into, but at this point, there's no saturated industry that is too saturated that you cannot infiltrate. Look at liquid death. Water is the most saturated industry out there. I can get water anywhere, right? I can go in and from the water fountain, from, Dasani, every gas station, every grocery store has water. There is so much water out there. Liquid death came into it. We can look at different hydration beverages. Bloom absolutely came into it. Soda, super saturated, major players. Poppy came in, had a $2 billion exit. All of those brands focused on building brand. They focused on differentiating on how people felt when they opened it. Is it revolutionary on the product side? No. They built a community and they built a brand and they made people fall in love with what the brand meant for them. That's what you need to focus on. I hope that this was helpful for you. Make sure that if this was a conversation that you really liked, put it in your business group chat, send it to your business bestie, put it in that Facebook group that you're into that's always talking about business. I would love to chat with you. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Growth Podcast. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. So if you love this one, make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss a conversation. If you want more conversations with me and other business owners, make sure that you join our completely free podcast community, the Founders Cafe. The link is in the show notes. You can get bonus resources, access to free coaching calls, as well as connect with like-minded business owners like yourself. Make sure that you rate and review the podcast 5 stars, share it with a friend to keep those conversations moving, and come back every Tuesday and Friday. I'll see you there.